What is up, guys? Rick Hackis here, and this is the complete guide to the Archon's Forge, the new patrol activity added into Destiny with the Rise of Iron expansion. This video will showcase everything you need to know about this activity. So, let's get started. The Archon's Forge is found in the Archon's Keep area of the Plaguelands patrol mode. Head here and head into the giant circular building and to the door in the back. Continue along this passageway and you will find the Archon's Forge. Now, although you can go here by yourself, it is also still technically an open public area, which means that other people randomly going through here can also join you and help you fight the enemies within the Archon's Forge. There can be, I've had up to 7 players in a single Archon's Forge event, but I think you can have even more, up to 9. And frankly, the more the merrier in terms of Archon's Forge. The more people you have, the easier these activities will be to complete. Now let's talk about the Archon's Forge activities, what all of them are, and how to activate them. Now, how you start an Archon's Forge activity is that you have to interact with the console that is in the room overlooking the main battle area. You go to this console and you present a Seva Offering. Seva Offerings take up space in your consumables section of your inventory, so make sure you have enough space in that section if you're looking for more. There's 3 different kinds of Seva Offerings. There's Fused Seva Offerings, which are green, there's Enhanced Seva Offerings, which are blue, and there's Perfected Seva Offerings, which are purple. Each Seva Offering corresponds to the difficulty of the event it starts. A Fused event has enemies with a light level of around 300, an Enhanced event has enemies with a light level of 330, and a Perfected event has enemies with light level 360. Generally speaking, from my experience, fused and enhanced activities really aren't that difficult, whereas perfected activities really crank up the difficulty, and you're going to need a lot of players or a lot of experienced players in order to beat those. Now, how do you get Seva Offerings? Well, they're random drops throughout the Plaguelands. So whether you're doing a mission in the Plaguelands or just the patrol mode in the Plaguelands, killing enemies have a random chance to drop these Seva Offerings. What Seva Offerings drop are random as well. You can kill a Dreg and get a Perfected Offering, and the next minute kill a Captain and get a Fused Offering. So the difficulty of the offerings does not necessarily depend on the enemy you're killing. With that being said, there does seem to be potentially a higher chance of getting one of these offerings from killing a higher tier enemy, like a Seva Captain, for example. Now, because these Seva Offerings simply drop randomly, the most common way people are going to get them is actually by playing Archon's Forge. People will likely have 1 or 2 in their inventories, go to Archon's Forge and start doing them, and as they're playing that activity and killing enemies, more will drop and just continue fueling the Archon's Forge event. Eventually, if you run out, you can always leave this area, go to patrol mode, do some patrol activities, and you're likely to get 1 or 2 after not too long. Now, I do mean 1 or 2. A lot of people think that you can only get 1 Seva Offering at a time. This isn't technically true. You can only get 1, for example, Fused Seva Offering at a time. You can't hold 2 of the green ones, 2 of the purple ones, etc. But I've heard that you can actually get 1 of each different difficulty. So you can have a Fused Seva Offering, which is green, and a blue Seva Offering in your inventory at the same time. So that's why you need to make sure you have enough space in your consumables in order to hold them. Now, as for the events you start with these Seva Offerings, they all pretty much function exactly the same. You're going to have a 5-minute timer, and the first thing you're going to need to do is simply kill enemies. Once you've killed enough enemies and the percentage in the corner of your screen gets to 100%, that will spawn the boss. You're then going to have to kill the boss before the 5-minute timer runs out, and then you're going to complete an Archon's Forge event if you're able to do so. Now, Now, very importantly, the timer does not reset. If you take 4 minutes to fill the bar to 100%, you're only going to have 1 minute to kill the boss. So it's very important, especially in the higher difficulty tiers of Archon's Forge events, to kill the enemies and to fill it up to 100% as quickly as possible so that you can have more time to fight the boss, which is going to be the most difficult part, definitely, especially if you're doing the perfected Archon's Forge events. Now, speaking of bosses, if you actually look in the description of your Seva offering, it will tell you exactly what boss it will summon. There's 4 different types of bosses: servitors, dregs, captains, and shanks. And those different bosses correspond to the weekly Shiro bounties, which you're obviously going to want to complete. They give you a massive amount of rep. So make sure to look and read what your offerings actually do, and if you have a bounty for captains, make sure to get someone to put in one that actually triggers a captain. They're not just random spawns for the bosses. Now, the last piece of information about the Archon's Forge is the death and buyback mechanic. Now, if you die during an Archon's Forge event, no matter which difficulty, you'll have the option to be revived. Now, if you can't do this, or simply everyone is dead, you can always revive, and if you do, you will respawn in the upper room where you have to start the original activity. In here, you can interact with the console and use a Splicer key on that console. Doing so will open up the blockade and let you back in to the Archon's Forge event. Now, it will let everyone back in at the same time, so it's a really good idea to communicate with people, tell them, okay, revive now. Everyone revives, one person uses a Splicer key, and then everyone can jump back in. Splicer keys are yet another consumable, and they are acquired from high-ranking enemies in the Plaguelands. Stuff like Brood Mothers and other higher-tier yellow health enemies have the chance to drop Splicer keys. And that covers really all of the information you need to know about Archon's Forge. Now, why would you do Archon's Forge? Well, there are certain rewards associated with this activity. Most commonly, as you can see here, you can actually get pretty high light class items. But there's other rewards as well, like this Archon's Forge exclusive sniper rifle. And I'm sure just showing you guys this is gonna make a lot of you hop onto Archon's Forge right now. Really cool sniper. There's also apparently a fusion rifle, and you can also get armor pieces as well, like chest pieces, leg pieces, etc. All of these drop at a relatively high light level, of course based off your current light level. Now, very importantly, these rewards are basically completely random. It doesn't matter, like it did in the Court of Oryx, who starts the Archon's Forge activity. No matter who starts it, it's just going to randomly distribute these awards. Furthermore, it doesn't necessarily seem like the difficulty is associated with the quality of loot per se. Now, definitely there will be a higher chance to get loot in the perfected Seva offering activities, but you can still get decent loot in the lowest tier fused Seva activities. But again, if you really do want that loot, like you really want that sniper, perfected is your best bet. The chances to get stuff do seem to be higher. And speaking of which, let's talk about some tips for beating perfected Archon's Forge activities. These are, again, by far the hardest activities in Archon's Forge. The boss is really your main problem here. He is an absolute bullet sponge. So the first thing you're going to need to do is, again, kill the enemies, kill the normal enemies, and fill it up to 100% as quickly as possible. You want to have the most time to kill the boss as you possibly can. So don't be afraid to use your super, to use heavy on killing these enemies. It's very important to do so. But again, the boss is your main concern. He is McBullet Sponge SquarePants here. Like, for real, these bosses have so much health. So you're going to want to use the things in your arsenal to maximize damage output on a single target. Tether is absolutely fantastic for doing this. It's going to basically double the amount of damage you can do on these bosses, so tethering these bosses and then just going to town with heavy, with snipers, etc. is going to really help. Weapons of Light is no joke either, so if you have Titans, maybe consider running 1 or 2 Defender Titans so you can get that Weapons of Light bonus. Again, your concern is going to be killing this guy before the timer runs out, and that is a legitimate concern, so you need to have massive damage output. Now that brings us to the battle axes. As long as you're doing well, it will spawn 3 battle axes in every encounter, including perfected. These battle axes do a lot of damage, and I know a lot of you are going to be tempted to just do the slam attack every single time. It does the most damage, and it can definitely be effective. However, as you can see here, there's a definite downside to doing so, and the downside is that it launches the boss up right into the air. It's actually kind of crazy that it does this, but it does, and this can make it pretty hard to land shots on the boss when he is flying through the air. So, use that slam attack with the battle axe for just normal enemies. If there's a group of enemies attacking you, if there's a group of shanks, if there's a group of dregs, slam them, kill all of them, and then go back and just do the normal slash attack on the boss. That's what we found to be much more effective. And lastly, as I said earlier, the more the merrier when it comes to Archon's Forge. The more people there is, the more damage output there is. So you're going to want to enter Archon's Forge preferably with a fire team of 3. However, you can get that higher. All you need to do is go into Archon's Forge and wait for a blue random player to show up. Invite that player, message that player, hopefully he will acknowledge you and join your party, for example, and then you can simply have 2 other friends join off that random blue player. Therefore, you can get a fire team of 6 potentially very easily if that, again, blue random player is understanding enough to let you do that. Now again, that definitely won't work all the time, but it's sure worth a try. When you see random players in the Archon's Forge, invite them to your party, have them change their fire team to public, and have more of your friends join off them. And guys, that is going to wrap up the Archon's Forge complete guide. I hope you guys enjoyed it and found it informative. Now, if you did, please remember to help me out by simply rating and especially sharing this video, even if it's just telling a friend. Now, if you want to see more Destiny content similar to this from me, don't be afraid to slap that subscribe button. If you want to get in touch with me and keep up to date with the latest channel activity, the best way is to follow me on Twitter. That's linked in the description down below, as is my Twitch channel, which you can also follow. Again, I hope you enjoyed the video, and as always, have a good day.